Coming up on today's episode of the Super Rugby Conference Preview with South Africa.
I just want to add that the conference system this year has not fixed anything, and I hope that Scottish Cannon is watching, and then we can carry on having that good old banter about it. I'm calling you out, Daniel. I'm calling you out, Daniel.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back along to the crib, where it is time for the third instalment of the Super Rugby Conference Preview. Today, we are going to be going way over the other side of the globe to the mighty nation of South Africa. And of course, we can't be having a look at these teams without having a special guest joining us from over the ditch. Of course, our resident South African expert, Brett Hartley, back on the show. Welcome to 2018, and welcome back along to the channel.
Yeah, how's it going, Cornflake? I'm glad to be back on. It's been quite long. I think Super Rugby Finals are the last time I was on here. So yeah, it's good to be back on in the new year.
It's nice. Nice little break away from everything. Stop, reset, now back into Super Rugby again, which is about to kick off. Now, if you haven't seen, we've already done New Zealand. We've already done Australian Conference as well. So if you haven't seen those, go back and check them out over the last week or two. We had those ones come out, and they had their own special guests as well. We had Driving Maul on for New Zealand. We had the Cannon on for Australia. And now we've got the trifecta going for South Africa. So let's get straight into it. As always, like we've done so far all along, we're going to be looking at these teams alphabetically. So we'll be starting off with everyone's favourite South African side, the Bulls. Yeah, I thought that was a bit of a low blow. The Bulls, Brett's favourite side. Not just kidding. Let's have a look at this Bulls team first. Now, they had a terrible year last year, didn't they? But what's really strange is, and it seems to be, I've done all three of these now with you guys talking about the sides and who's changed, what's changed about these teams. But it seems to be a common topic of discussion is the change of coach. Now, I don't know the exact numbers, but I'd say it's over half, well over half, just 60, 70% of all coaches have changed. The Bulls have gone and got the American coach. If you don't know who that is, well, it is good old Big John. John Mitchell is back. He's back in Super Rugby. He's moved from America to the Bulls. Tell me, we know what to expect from John Mitchell. I know New Zealand people have seen him in coaching the All Blacks. He's been in South Africa with the Lions. He's been in Ireland. He's been in England. He's been all around the world doing trips, on someone's credit card. How is that going to affect the Bulls? How are they going to change? What do you expect them to bring that side?
I mean, first of all, I think getting rid of Noel Smith was the right decision. He was an absolutely awful coach. He was a good junior coach, but yes, he absolutely did nothing for the Bulls. But getting John Mitchell, when you want your side to recover, he normally takes good sides and turns them awful. So giving him an awful side, I don't even know what he's going to do with that. I don't know. I thought they would have gone out and got Heine Kamada, because I'm not sure what he's doing right now after he got relieved of his Springbok duties. Getting John Mitchell, he's not a very big players coach. His coaching style doesn't really resonate with a lot of players, and it usually turns nasty. We were joking before about a players' revolt, as Hypersport said in his video a couple days ago. I don't know what went through their heads with getting John Mitchell. I think he was originally appointed as a director of rugby or something, but everyone sort of imagined that he would slide right into that coaching role after they got rid of Moret. So it was an absolutely awful move, in my opinion.
It's weird, isn't he? He's a good rugby coach when he doesn't have anything to do with the players. So they shove him in the office and hope that he doesn't talk to anyone. Oh, dear. I can't imagine this is going to go all too well for the Bulls. Like you say, he turns good teams bad teams. What possibly could go good from this at all? And you move on from there, obviously, new coach at the team. He's got to make the changes. And when you look at their squad, it's hard to see, it's where do you find the good players, the big names, the big game players that are going to show up here for the Bulls. They've lost internationally capped players, Rudy Page, Jacques Bokita, Jan Serfontaine's gone, and that puts even more pressure onto the few that they do have, like Lute Jaeger, they got Jesse Creel, Andreas Strauss, Naikani, and even Pollard if he plays. That's going to be more pressure on those guys. What do you make of their transfers in the build-up to the season?
Well, I mean, they've done completely nothing. Their best transfer is probably Marnus Bosov, who was thought to be one of the up-and-coming fire halves like 3 years ago now, and he's absolutely done. He had a dreadful Currie Cup final, and then he's absolutely done nothing since then. He's been sitting on the Lions bench for the last few years, so I guess that's a decent fly half, also considering that Pollard will probably play a game and then break something and not play for the rest of the season. Obviously not wishing that on him, but it's just what's happened the last few seasons. And otherwise, just going down the list, everyone's left and they've hardly got anyone back in. And they've got a couple of their good, especially a couple of their good backs. But other than that, they haven't added anything basically.
Yes, looks like it could be a tough year ahead for the Bulls, in fact, with those transfers. Unless they can unearth some stars. Like you spoke a bit about their sevens man, old Tim Agaba. What's he like?
He's been good for the Blitzbokker. He's a good upfront player. He'll be good back row player. He's good over the ruck. He's probably one of the, besides Quagga Smith, who's an absolute legend, he's probably the second best guy over the ball in the ruck in the sevens team. So yeah, he's a good pickup. He's a big, strong guy. Got quite a lot of pace in him. So he might have a similar season to what Quagga Smith did with the Lions last year. But he's not a player that's going to really break a game open for you. He's just a good additional player, I suppose.
So he still needs a good squad around him, which he's, on paper, looks to be missing from the Bulls. Last season, 4 wins, 11 losses. It's a really bad season for a team with the history that the Bulls have got in the competition. They've got a good, strong history in the league, but you expect a lot better from them. Where did it go wrong for them last year, and where do you think they're going to find anything different? Do you think it'll be better, or do you think it's going to be 2017 Bulls all over again?
It's probably going to be 2017 Bulls. Last season, obviously they played the New Zealand Conference, which didn't help them from the start because of the stupid conference system they had in place last year. But we've gotten rid of that slightly. And, it's just their game plan. Their coach wasn't good. Nolas Morea, like I've said, is not a good coach. They didn't have the right players in check. They made some pretty dodgy selections. I'm glad they've gotten rid of Rudy Page because he's probably one of my least favourite players in SA Rugby. And just their game plan, they don't really know what to do. Some of their players, like Warwick Gallant, awesome run over the ball. They got him to kick the ball way too much. Andre Pollard getting injured from the start, you knew that was absolutely going to screw them up because most of their game plan just rotated around him. And whenever he's on the field, pretty much every second ball is going into his hands. So, relying too much on Pollard, outdated game plan, and just not be able to cope with the newer, faster style of game plan.
It looks like it's going to be tough too for the Bulls. When you talked a little bit about their fixtures, they kick things off against the Hurricanes in Pretoria, and then they are away to face the Lions. Or they're still at home to face the Lions, I should say. Then they're away and they hit the road to face the Reds, and then they're on the road again. They're up against the Chiefs. I mean, it's not an easy start to the tournament. You could easily see them, 4 or 5 matches down with 1 win or 0 wins possibly, which is not a good start at all for the Bulls. And yeah, like I say, 2017 all over again for them. So, strengths and weaknesses of the side, do you think?
The strengths would be just their traditional type gameplay when it comes to the driving mauls and the scrums and stuff. They've still got a decent pack of forwards. Obviously, not having I've gone blank now. Jacques Pochita, sorry. Not having him, he's on a sabbatical. That's a big loss to them. He didn't play much last season anyway. But just up front, Laurie Moores, they still got Adrian Strauss, which I'm quite surprised because I thought he retired. But obviously he's back. He's a good guy off the back of them all. And just up front play, and then obviously having the likes of Warwick Gallant, who's probably the up-and-coming player in SA Rugby, awesome at the fullback position, and then Jesse Creel hasn't had the best couple of seasons, but if he picks up form, he could be pretty solid for them as well.
Any weaknesses you want to pick a hole in?
Just their whole team. They just lack a game plan. I don't see John Mitchell really fixing that. He might try and adopt a New Zealand style of play there, but at the same time, I don't see many players who can actually carry out their game plan. Just the lack of confidence in them. Their stadium will be next to empty again all season next year unless something drastically improves. And they just don't have enough big names in their team anymore, really. And that old 2010s group has phased out now. There's Victor Madfields, Brian Banners, Bucky Sports, they're all gone. And they've just left with what they have now, which is not much.
Yeah, it's hard to see Mitchell putting in any sort of decent New Zealand game plan when he couldn't even do it with the All Blacks. So it's all pretty much downhill. For me, I've singled out their front row as probably the area that they're going to have a strength in. They've got some pretty good names there. Nia Carney in there, the Gulboka. whoever you say that properly, I've probably made a hash of that. Strauss, the likes of them. It's a good, solid front row, and their whole pack, generally, you'd expect, should be pretty solid. The weakness I think they're going to lack is leadership. Yes, they got the Strauss and players like that, good natural-born captain and leader in their team, but there's not much else to go around that. Injuries, things like that, can quickly change a team when you've got a whole bunch of guys that have got, under 10 caps in your starting 15, which doesn't really help for them. So that's where I think you're going to struggle. And going on those fixtures as well, a bad start, like you said, confidence goes down the toilet, and it just all crumbles down big time for them. So they're going to have to pull out some good performances straight away if they're going to be contenders even for half a season. Where have you got them finishing in South Africa?
Dead last, absolutely fifth. I think the Jaguars will have them beat this year, especially when the Bulls are traveling to Argentina to play them. Bulls don't travel well, which I should have put in their weaknesses. They don't travel well at all. And yeah, they're absolutely dead last. They're probably only managing 2 or 3 wins off the season, I reckon.
Yep, I agree with you there. I've got them fifth as well. Dead smacker last. It's quite a tough conference, this, so we'll probably talk more about it later. But when I was going through this trying to pick where I had them finish, it was quite, especially in that middle pack, to get those positioning, I think it's going to be quite close. Fifth for me. Anything else you want to add to the Bulls?
No, I think I've really chucked on fuel to the Bulls fans' fire. That's probably going to come at me after this.
Yeah, good stuff. Right, let's move on. Second team in the South African Conference, going to be looking at the Argentinian side, the Jaguares. And straight away, like we did with the Bulls, another team, another coach. And I thought it's a shame that we can't replace the leaders of Sanzao like we do with coaches in Super Rugby, because we might get a little bit of logic going into the competition.
We don't really know who they are, so it's hard to replace them.
Fair point. That's a really good point. So they've got rid of Paul Perez. He's gone. Mario Ledesma has joined from the forwards coach of the Wallabies. Now, we know a lot about him. He's a big forward-dominated coach. He should definitely improve this pack of an already good, pretty much, Argentina side. Anything else you think he's going to offer? And do you think he's going to change the style that we've seen from the Jaguares in the last couple of years?
I think the Jaguares have always been a quite upfront forward dominant team, and I think he's just going to intensify that. So it's probably not a huge change, but he's probably just going to be more forwards focused, more rolling mauls, more focused on the scrum, and he's an awesome he's probably one of the best scrum coaches in the world. What he did with the Wallabies in 2015, what he did to their scrum, where he completely changed them from the idea of Australia not being able to scrum anyone to, scrumming England at Twickenham again. So he's a very good forwards coach, but on the other hand, I don't know how he's going to run that back line.
Yeah, that's going to be their struggle, isn't it? Because Argentinian rugby as a whole is kind of, I guess, they've kind of evolved a bit into becoming a bit more of a backline team rather than just a 10-man team with some backs that can tackle and defend. So it's going to be interesting to see that. They have lost, of course, we talked about before, probably one of their most potent weapons in Santiago Cordero. But it was the front row that I was going to talk about next. It seems to be the next generation of Argentinian front rowers have just appeared in the Jaguares side as well. And they've lost a few decent ones. Herrera, especially, I think it's going to be a huge loss for them. And Paz leaving, but such a huge influx of youth coming into this. And what has been otherwise throughout the rest of the team pretty low in player turnover. Do you think, along with the loss of Cordero and what they have brought in, and Kobeli is probably their biggest incoming in name, do you think with this, the transfer they've got, being able to rotate the squad, do you think they're going to be able to do that this season without really sacrificing having a strong first 15 team?
I think the first couple of weeks they will struggle a bit just trying to get these young guys integrated into the team, but they've got a fantastic captain, Augustine Creevy, and I think he knows his teammates quite well, and he'll be able to integrate them quite well. Thomas Kobeli will fit in quite nicely. They still got Landajo as well, so probably Kobeli off the bench will be a good impact player coming off there. And yeah, first few weeks I reckon just to get their chemistry up will be a bit struggle, but as soon as they get rolling, they'll be pretty good, I reckon.
It's interesting you mentioned Landajo there as well, because a note I thought was quite extraordinary about the side that they've named is that they have actually 4 internationally capped scrum halves in the team, with Bertrand, Kobeli, Izquierda and Landajo all in that Jaguares side. So there's definitely nothing going to be lost at all in the number 9 jumper for this side. So they're going to be pretty strong. I think something I'm probably going to talk a bit more about later, but is at number 10, is somewhere where they're going to have to really get a good performance out of Sanchez if he's going to move this pack around, because that's what he's got to do mostly. But what I wanted to ask you was a simple one, a very easy one. One word, really: travel. That's a big thing for the side. Better than it was last year, and they've kind of thrown their weight around a little bit to get this as well. But will they, or have they, adapted and learned from previous years to try and make this a bit easier on them?
I mean, it's quite hard to come over that travel, isn't it? Like, they're in the South African Conference, which is the closest place to them, but it's still an extremely long way to travel, especially when you're doing that every 2-3 weeks traveling. It's a big advantage for them when they have teams traveling to them, but at the same time, a lot of the time when they play at home, they're also traveling back from somewhere else, so they kind of lose that home ground advantage. They should turn Argentina into a fortress for them this year, especially when other South African teams come play them, but and also Australian teams. But it's a really hard obstacle they have in front of them to be able to just be traveling all over the place and to play a local derby, because they're in the same conference in South Africa, is still miles and miles and miles away. So it's really difficult. It's going to be a huge weakness for them this season.
Yeah, and looking at their fixtures list too, which is quite interesting, they do start off on the road in Johannesburg to face the Lions, but then they're actually at home for the next just about, I think, till week 9 when they are in Melbourne to face the Rebels. So they've actually got a good run there of 7 matches at home in Buenos Aires. So they're going to be sticking around, and that is going to be crucial. If they go into round 9 really with less than 6 wins, 5-6 wins, you've got to say, their season could be completely done by that stage already. So they've really got to start well again. Most of these teams will be the same, but that travel, they have to nail that straight away. Strengths and weaknesses of the Jaguares?
Weakness, probably, like you said, just integrating those youngsters in the team. Whether that front row can cope losing quite a lot of front rowers, integrating that new breed into their system, and as well, huge weakness is their travel as well. So like you said, if they can't win it at home this season, they're going to be done, because it's just so hard for them to travel, especially to places like Australia and New Zealand, where it's just ages and ages away from them. Strength, just their general typical Argentinian forward style play. They're really strong through the driving maul, and then they've got some pretty good backs as well, who can break away from those driving mauls or rucks or whatever and just break through the line and devastate their opposition. So just mainly their upfront physical play will be their biggest strength.
Yeah, it's a bit easy to say their pack, isn't it? Because it's Argentina, it's kind of the rugby cliche, isn't it? That Argentina's going to have a strong pack. I think their strength's going to be, like we talked about before, number 9, scrum half. That's going to be where they're going to be consistently good and fresh as well. So I've already talked about that. And the weakness as well, I think they really need a good fly half performance. So Sanchez is a great player, no question about that, but he needs to perform. And I think Ledesma should help that, because he'll get that pack operating in a way that should give him nice ball that he can work with as well. So him, Juan Martin Hernandez as well is another one that has to probably really step up as well. She's a classy player. So they should have no problem, but they just got to be all on the same page for the side. Right, final finish for the Jaguares.
We're still going in order so far, so I've got them 4th. Yeah, I think they'll get over the Bulls, but in terms of Stormers, Lions and Sharks, I don't think they'll have enough to get over them.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really close between most of these last 4 sides, between the Jaguares, Lions, Sharks, Stormers, like you said, because it's pretty close, it's pretty tight. And one win or one loss, a close one going bad way, could do them, but I'm going to 4th as well for the Argentinian franchise. Nothing else you want to add on those guys? Any more boots you want to put in?
Nah, I think I've said enough on the Jaguars.
Right, let's move on to the losing finalists for the last couple of years, the Lions. Right, 2017, well, I said, 2nd consecutive final. Has the horse bolted on the Lions being a real competition contender?
Yeah, I've been quite worried about the Lions. Obviously, I want the Sharks to do well because I'm a Sharks supporter, but I think for the good of SA Rugby, I think we need a strong Lions team. And just some of the players and just coaching staff they've lost this season. They lost Faf de Klerk because for some reason they prefer Crenier over de Klerk, which I can see in certain games, and obviously the Springboks also apparently preferred him over de Klerk. So they've lost him, and he was probably one of the best players. In the Super Rugby final last year when they were a man down after Quagga Smith got red carded, he came on the pitch, and then the momentum shifted, and the Lions actually, they were still nowhere close, but they were mounting a good comeback attempt when de Klerk was on the field, and he was able to speed up the ball. He delivers nice quick ball. And he's gone. Crenier's a more tactical, slower scrum half who doesn't seem to pair as well with Elton Yankees as de Klerk did. So that'll be quite interesting to see how they do with him off the, especially coming off the bench. And then the big one is obviously Johan Ackerman. Their wonder coach has gone to Gloucester, and he was just the heart and soul of that team. He completely changed the culture of the team. He picked up players like Warren Whiteley, Elton Yankees, who no one was really giving a second thought on, and turned them into stars of SA Rugby. So it's been a huge loss now that he's gone. And obviously he took his son, Rowan Ackerman, with him as well, who was a pretty good flanker as well. So they've just lost a lot of quality people from their team, players and coaches. And they probably should have won the final last year, because I think the hopes for their Super Rugby title are slowly dimming.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and it's just not meant to be, was it? And I think you spoke about Faf de Klerk on that and that last bit. I think he's a bit of a victim of the style of South African rugby as a whole. I think if he was an Australian, New Zealander, any other country in the world, just about, he'd be a regular player just because of his attacking style. But it's just like South African coaching staff and that just don't like that all-out attacks on this kind of style player, and they, like you say, they go more for the straightforward, basic, do the easy things well, which is what Cronje does. Take the ball, pass it, make a tackle. So it's a bit of a shame. I was a big fan of Faf de Klerk as well, so to lose him will be quite bad. So third team. Third new coach. You've already mentioned a bit. Ackerman on his way off to see Gloucester. So this guy's new to me. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he was the assistant from last season, so that should help them a little bit. De Bruin, I don't know if that's how you say his name properly. What's he going to offer this Lions team? Much of the same. Do you think he's learnt the way that Ackerman ran this side?
Partly. Watching the Lions in the Currie Cup last year, they didn't have a very good campaign under him, but that could be attributed to most of their good players being on Springbok duty. He might have adapted some. I think he's a more tactical, traditional South African type coach, more tactical kicking. He'll be more probably run dominant than, say, a traditional Bulls coach would offer you, like Nolis Murray, but yeah, I think he will learn some attributes from Ackerman, but I think he'll be more of a traditional South African coach than Johan Ackerman ever was, which will be a negative for the Lions.
Yeah, it'll definitely play against their style. It's like, say, the 9-10 combination. Yankees was very much in that style of play, wasn't he? He's a very attacking sort of player as well, much like de Klerk. Be interesting to see how he goes under the new format, or any changes that the new coach will make as well. You've talked a little bit about Faf de Klerk. I think he's the biggest omission to be lost on the side. But how do you think the new coach has done with his transfers this year? There's quite a few of them, in and out. Do you think he's improved the team or just filled holes?
I think he's just filled some holes, really. He hasn't really got many big names in the squad compared to who he's lost. The Lions lost Aka van der Merwe to the Sharks, who was a pretty good hooker. They still got Malcolm Marx, who was an absolutely phenomenal player, one of my favourite players in the world right now. In my opinion, the best hooker in the world. So, it's not a huge loss that. He was good off the bench, van der Merwe. But yeah, like you said, I think they've just been trying to fill in holes that have been left by some of the departing players.
So strengths and weaknesses for the Lions?
Strengths would be that their core of players. So Lionel Mapu, Elton Yankees, Warren Whiteley, Ryan Janssen van Rensburg, and Malcolm Marx. Those 5 players are their absolute strength. If they stay healthy, they'll look to have a good season. Their weakness, just the coaching. I'm interested to see how he goes, how the new coach goes, and his new role as head coach. Now that Ackerman's gone, he's just got to get the confidence of his players really, and they need to start strong, just so they can carry on that confidence. They've lost in the last 2 finals now, which is not good for morale of any team, and they just need to work as hard as they can to make sure that championship window hasn't closed fully.
Yeah, I've gone for their back row as my strengths for the Lions. You still got those key players, Yaka Krills, Crugger Smith, of course, everyone's fan favourite, and Warren Whiteley still there as well. So you've got big names in that back row, which really, they control the game at open play as well. So you got that sort of control and momentum of the game in that sort of stage. You've still got enough good players that can actually do. You've still got the Rowan Combrinks. You've still got the Skozans, those sorts of guys, and Van Rensburg, like you talked about as well. They can definitely score tries. So, if they can control the breakdown, which that back row should be able to, they can definitely still be a dangerous side. I'm in agreement with you for their weakness, though. That core of the squad's still there. Those players that have been there and done that, but can they get that same performance out or from the new coach than they got with Ackerman? That's going to be the big question mark over this team. It's either going to go well, they'll just keep on chewing on like they do, straight train state to the final station, or it's going to completely capitulate for them. Where have you got them finishing in South Africa this season?
I've actually got them finishing second. I reckon if the new coach gets them clicking and they play the same style of rugby that they did last year, I reckon they'll finish either 1 or 2, but I've got them as second for right now.
Oh, we've got a bit of difference. I'm going continually up, and I've got them going into third. So we've got a bit of point difference here. So Lions fans, get to booting. I've gone against your team. Are they going to do it? Let us know what you think about the Lions in the comments below. Right, that's it. Now let's go on. This is a big one. This is your one, all just for you. And the first thing I say here is, no new coach. First time, no new coach. They've kept the same coach. It's like almost like a big deal, isn't it? They've hung on to him. So the Sharks, they've picked up transfer of the season, possibly, in your opinion, Robert du Preez from the Stormers to replace what you'd call Patrick Lambie. Is that the big one? Is this the transfer of South Africa?
I reckon it's one of the 2 big transfers that both were got by the Sharks. Kerwin Bosch for the Sharks last year was spectacular at the fly-up position after Lambie got injured, like he always does every year.
Yep.
Again. So I was really sad to see Lambie go. He's one of my all-time favourites. When I was a lot younger, I just remember him absolutely dominating a Currie Cup final, and he's been one of my favourites since then. But yeah, sad to see him go. Also, we've lost our, in theory, our captain, even though he didn't get much game time as captain. He was a good leader, but yeah, we got Robert du Preez, who's one of the best fly halves in South Africa. I reckon he should be the starting Springbok fly half, in my opinion. He had an awesome Currie Cup campaign at the Stormers last year. Obviously beat the Sharks in a Sharks home final in the Currie Cup final. And he's an awesome tactical fly half, but can also run the ball on any given day. So I'm very excited about what he's going to bring to the Sharks, especially playing for his dad, who's the coach. So we've got all 3 du Preez brothers in the squad right now. Obviously, Jean-Luc and Dan du Preez in the back row. Now we've got Robert du Preez as a fly half. So very excited about him. And then obviously the big, I'm probably stealing one of your questions, but the other big signing would be Makazola Mapimpi. He's one of my favourite player to watch last year in Super Rugby.
The Kings. Go the mighty Kings. Yeah, you're onto it. That was partially my next point, but it was still about transfers. But it's more about how the Sharks seem to be the only team in South Africa who have actually bolstered their squad with known players or players who are already playing at a level similar to Super Rugby. And, like you said, scooping up some of those high-flying Kings from 2017, the best in the business, coming to join the Sharks, which automatically transfers me to go and support the Sharks from South Africa now, because I want to see Mapimpi do well. He's a legend. He's a legend. Not the only one they got. Louis Schroeder as well has joined them. Tyler Paul from the Kings. Aka van der Merwe has joined, as well as Ross Geldenhuys. And that name, Majola, that's about my attempt I'm going to say on that for the front rower. But a lot of players coming in. Do you reckon these guys are the best transfers in South Africa, the best team that done it, or not quite up to how good as it could have been?
I think they might be the best transfers in Super Rugby this year. I've from keeping track of the other teams, I haven't seen so many bigger names being bought in. Obviously, it helps that the Kings are gone. Well, probably the Rebels are up there as well with all the Force guys they snapped up. But they've had an awesome transfer window, and this is the most excited I've been for a Sharks season in quite some time now. And I think another guy that's flying on the radar is Leland Zas, who was at the Stormers last year. Good winger. They've absolutely stacked their team full of wingers now. And Zas is quite a speedy, agile young winger. So I'm looking forward to what he's bringing probably off the bench. And obviously he joins the likes of people like Loizian Volvo and Kubas van Veek as well, who are really quality wingers. So I'm looking forward to seeing Volvo and Mapimpi on opposite wings. It's looking forward to be a good season. And obviously I keep hearing that we're moving Cohen Bosch to the fullback position this year. So it'll be good to see him still starting, even though that Robert Dupria will most likely be taking the reins for the number 10 jersey. And we just had some awesome transfers. I'm very excited for this season.
I don't know how much you know about Cohen Bosch, but naturally before he was a Super Rugby player, obviously when he was age groups, whatever, is he naturally a fly half or is he naturally a fullback?
I think he was normal. I think he was a fly half throughout his. I know for SA under-20s he played fly half, and he can play fullback. I think he made a Springbok debut at fullback for coming off the bench last year. Not his best position. I think he needs to learn how to play it properly. But he's a quality player with a massive boot on him, and having him at the back. Sending back kicks with his huge boot, and obviously his goal kicking that he brings as well, will be a big up for the Sharks.
It's kind of similar to the Damien McKenzie story, isn't it? He was a fly half at school level and things like that, broke into it at fullback. Where does he actually fit in? These guys need to settle down and actually find a position where they're going to sit on. So I'm interested to see him at fullback. I do agree. He's a very, very quality player. Last season, the Sharks, 9 wins, 6 losses. On paper it looks okay, but it's okay. Is this a turning point, though? Is this the season where the Sharks are going to become powerhouse South African team?
I mean, I've been saying that for the last couple of years, but it just never turns out. I'm still picking up the pieces of my broken heart from that quarterfinal against the Lions, where we just dropped this massive lead to them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So that was heartbreaking, but it comes with the territory of being a Sharks fan. They find a way to disappoint you. Most seasons, but I'm hoping that this is a season with the signings that the Sharks have made. We've got a quality back line. We've got some good forwards. Probably a couple of old guys that we could still push out there. Beast and Taurira, he's getting up there. He's still playing some quality. He's still a good scrummager, but other than that, he doesn't offer much anymore, which is quite sad because he used to be my favourite player. But he's getting up in age there, and whether he can put together a good season again. And yeah, we've just made our backline especially is looking great. We are going to miss Kubas Reinach though, who left after this season. He played scrum half for us.
That's a bit cruel on poor old Taurira. He's only 32.
Yeah, he's been around for ages though.
He's still got another 5 years in him yet. Come on.
Yeah, I want him to be better, but his performances haven't been awesome lately. But
fair enough.
Yeah, he used to be my undeniable favourite player back in the day, so I'm hoping that he can put together a decent season and lead that powerful Sharks scrum.
So where do you see the Sharks going to base their strengths and weaknesses off this season? Where are you going to attack them? Where are they going to attack you from?
So our strength, like always, I think will be our defence. Our defence won us most of our games last year. We've got an awesome defence, and then if we can develop a good counter-attack with guys like Mapimpi and Cohen Bosch in the back three, having a good counter-attack off good defence will be very vital for the Sharks. And if they can really improve that, and I'm looking forward to seeing Mapimpi score many tries in the black jersey off the counter-attack, hopefully. Weakness will just be the Sharks in pressure situations. They've choked enormously over the last few seasons in big games, especially against the Kings last year. We were up quite big, and then we lost the lead. And then we knocked the ball on off a kickoff and lost the game. So we just need to change that mindset of choking in pressure situations, which can be quite hard, but we got a good coach in Robert Dupria Sr. So we should be looking at a good season for the Sharks.
It almost comes with the territory of being on this channel, isn't it? That you lose to the Sharks and to the Kings in devastating fashion. Our Scottish Cannon all about that. He knows about the Kings. For me, I was going to say the back row because I really like Jean-Luc Dupria. and Tembu, Keegan Daniel, the likes of those, Dan De Pree as well, even Philip van der Walt was very, very good, solid back row. But I want to go with their wingers, like you said as well. Looking through the guys they've got, you've already mentioned them a few times, but Zas, Nkosi, Involvo, Mapimpi, that's just like extreme pace and finishing power, isn't it? You give these guys an opportunity, they're going to take it as well. So I'm really excited to see these guys. I think they could be, especially at home, and get nice, running rugby surfaces. Could be a question if they're, the weather turns in Australia or wherever they are. Could be a bit interesting. But I think their weaknesses is going to be in the midfield. Now, they got really good outside backs, and the midfield, apart from Lacandro Arm, who has been a really, really come along, a very nice player the last couple of years, he's got to stay fit for that whole season because he's the glue in the midfield, and he needs to service those outside backs, because if they lose him, there's going to be some questionable guys coming in there whether they're up to the standard. But that's the only question I'd give them. Now, of course, big surprise here. Where do you got the Sharks finishing?
I don't want to be called biased, but I've got them at number 1 just for the transfers they've made. If the defence stays the same as it was last season, we've just improved our attack, which was holding us back in quite a few games last year. So, I've got us finishing number 1.
Number 1 for the Sharks, yep, I agree. I'm bucking the trend of my 5-4-3-2-1. I'm going to go 5-4-3-1, and you can guess the last one. So, number 1 for the Sharks for me. Your team, anything else you want to chuck in about this side, what you think about them?
I kind of felt bad there when you mentioned Spoon Corsi because he's one of my favourite players, and I forgot to mention him on the wing. So, he'll be a big reason. He's only like 19 years old, and he had an awesome season last year, and I think he will be on the edge of Springbok selection this year. So I'm hoping he'll have a good season as well.
They're electric backs, aren't they? They're just so exciting to watch. So I hope they really, if they get the room, they could be exceptional to watch. Okay, last side, number 5, the Stormers. What a team we've seen from the Stormers last season. Where they go this year will be very, very interesting, how they perform. But 2 in a row, mark this on your calendar, 2 coaches in a row staying with their team. That's a record.
Isn't it?
It's not very often this happens, not recently as well. But there's quite a bit of talent hitting the road from the Stormers team, especially in the backs. De Jong, Jones, Besson, Colby, all hitting the deck and leaving the Stormers. Have they replaced these guys well enough? They've picked up Engelbrecht, Peterson, Rule and the likes. Are they man-for-man replacements good enough to keep the Stormers side on the improve?
I mean, they've made getting Raymond Rule and Sergio Peterson in the outside backs is awesome. They're probably upgraded there from what they've lost. Especially, I'm a big fan of Sergio Peterson. Raymond Rule, obviously a Springbok winger, needs to drastically improve his defence to be thought of as those top tier wingers. JJ Engelbrecht, awesome signing. It's good to see him back in SA Rugby after a stint in Japan. But I think the big worry is their fly halves. They've downgraded massively. They've lost Kurt Coleman and Robert Dupree, who is their number 1 and 2 fly halves last year. So that's a huge worry for them.
Yeah, the Stormers, last season, I talked about it a bit at the start there. Terrible time in 2017 when they hit the road. In 2018, they've got to improve that because looking at the fixtures here straight away, they're on the road pretty much out of the blocks. They're at home up against Jaguares in Cape Town. Then they're off, and they're off to face the Waratahs in Sydney, game number 2. Much like the Bulls and the Jaguares for that matter, if they don't get a good start, things will quickly get away from them. You don't want to give teams like the Sharks a lead in the competition. Have they learned anything from that torturous tour of 2017? And have they learnt to defend a crossfield kick?
I mean, look, I think they've just got to draw a flat line and say we've got to win these tour games because there's no point turning your home into a fortress, which Newlands was up there with the fortresses last year in Super Rugby, but not that they had an absolute horror towards New Zealand where they just got hit out of the park in most games. So they've just got to draw a line in the sand and say we actually need to win some of these tour games, otherwise we're going to be out of this competition quite fast. Because home ground advantage in Super Rugby finals, quarterfinals, semi-finals is absolutely vital because it's not often where a away team actually pulls off an upset. So, they like I said, they just got to draw a line in the sand and say we've got to win, especially when they're in Australia. They need to win some of these games.
They have a absolutely ridiculous schedule. I was just having a quick look at this, and like I said, they go to face the Waratahs second match. Then they're facing the Crusaders, defending champions in Christchurch. Then they're facing the Highlanders under the roof. And then they are going to back home, but they're facing the Blues. That is 5 rounds. That could be quite difficult before they get the Reds at home as well, which you'd imagine they should win that one. That is a really, really difficult start to the competition. But, you know, I like to look at that team. And like you said, the likes of Sergio Peterson and players like that are really going to boost them up quite nicely. So... a lot of pressure now. You talked a little bit about it there with what they've got rid of in their fly halves, but Jean-Luc Duplessis, he's got to hold things together with the loss of Dupré, like we talked about before. Do you think he's up to that task, or are they going to look to the younger guys, or possibly Whitehead to step up to that job?
It's difficult. I've seen a few of his games, and he's not a bad fly half, but he's not a fly half that's going to wow you with his running game at all either, and his playmaking. Another option they could have is Dylan Lades. He can play fly half. He's much better on the wing. Obviously played for the Springboks last year with his crazy offloads and whatnot. But they could look to him. He's a legitimate 10 option, so they could look that way. Whitehead as well. They could look to the younger guy and just say we've lost one of our quality. Or 2 of our quality fly halves, and we need to look for the next generation to step up and play in that position. But fly half is an absolutely vital position. If you don't have a good fly half, your team will really struggle.
Yeah, it's going to be a big question mark over their team, isn't it? An area that side's probably going to target on them as well if they get the opportunity. Your strengths and weaknesses for the Stormers side?
Their strength is probably just counter-attack. They had some awesome moments last year. SP Marae at fullback is one of the better counter-attack players in South Africa. That absolutely ridiculous try that him and Dylan Lades combined for last year against the Chiefs, where Dylan Lades flicked that behind the back pass and it landed right in Marae's hands, and he went in for the score. Their counter-attack's their biggest strength, I reckon. And in terms of weaknesses, we've already talked about it. Their travel. They've got to win some of their tour games, and especially with that schedule that you just mentioned, they got to find a way to win some of those games where they just be gritting it out and kicking for 3 points as much as they can and just trying to frustrate New Zealand teams, especially into giving up games on tour.
That try was the birth of SP Marae, wasn't it? That was the come and Dylan Lades to a point. He was already quite up there, but Marae just come out of nowhere. He had a storming season, didn't he? That's a terrible pun. I agree with you on their strengths. Their back three is really, really dangerous. The Lades, the Peterson, the Rawl, even got Sinatler on their books. Whether he's going to actually play or not is a different question. And, of course, Maria. They've got to be a danger. You won't want to give them too much chance on the kick return either. Weaknesses, I've kind of expanded on what you've said a little bit, but it's depth. It kind of, what you said is kind of ties in it with it together, because on the travel, they've got to have players who are going to get injured. People aren't going to go on the trip. Some are, and they're going to have a limited squad. Whether that depth can stand up to a tour, whether it can stand up to going 2 or 3 deep in a position like fly half is going to be the question for them throughout the season. Final finish in South Africa.
I've got them as third. So I reckon it'll be extremely close. There'll be a bit of a divide. I think it'll be Jaguars and Bulls quite far behind the top 3. And then Sharks, Lions, and Stormers, right now, I reckon are quite interchangeable, depending on how their season goes. But I've got them as 3. But they could easily finish second or first with the talent they've got on their roster.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying there, exactly. I've got them coming in second. But like we talked about before we started recording here, the Sharks, the Lions, Stormers, even the Jaguares, if they can get their stuff together, could be all in the mix. But you can toss these teams, pretty much anyone but the Bulls, in, and they could come up anyway. So I got them coming in second. So that pretty much wraps us up. Anything you want to add on about any of those 5 sides, the conference as a whole, or anything else you want to add on it?
I just want to add that it's quite off topic, but the conference system this year has not fixed anything. And I hope that Scottish Cannon is watching, and then we can carry on having that good old banter about it. But the South African Conference is going to be pretty good this year, pretty tightly contested, probably by the Bulls. But it'll be good if they can somehow become competitive again, because SA Rugby needs the Bulls to be good, for the Springboks to be good, unfortunately. But yeah, it's going to be a very tightly contested contest, and I'm really looking forward to watching it unfold this year.
The challenge has been laid down. It is there. Everyone watching, anyone out there, do you want to see Brett versus a Cannon Super Rugby debate? Is it better? Is it worse? If you've come right to the end of the video, leave your thoughts below. Let us know what you think in the comments. I want to know. If it's something you want to see, we're definitely going to make it happen. It's going to be on. Debate. Is it better? Is it worse? Oh, I can't wait. I hope people want to see that.
I'm calling you out, Daniel.
He's calling you out. The gloves are at the 4. Soon we'll be doing YouTube boxing matches as well. Won't be quite as epic, but it'll still be funny. Oh, dear. All right, that is it. The seed has been planted. Hopefully we'll see that before the start of the season, which is only a couple of weeks away now. So, yeah, hopefully we can make that happen. Right, that is it. We're done. Where can people find you, Brett, if they like what you have to say? Can you catch you on Twitter, things like that?
Yeah, just on Twitter, Brett Hartley 390. Just feel free to send me as many, especially Bulls fans, send me as many angry posts as you want, and we'll have some good banter, all in good spirit, obviously. I enjoy quite a bit of banter, especially with the likes of Scottish Cannon and Cornflake and whatnot. But yeah, catch me on Twitter, and I look forward to some banter on Twitter.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's always the highlight of Super Rugby season, is it? Getting on Twitter, always have the chats, always have a disagreement, always abusing the refs. Someone's defending the refs, attacking players for being rubbish. It is fun. So get involved. Follow Brett. You can follow myself as well and get involved in the conversation at Cornflakes Crib. You can follow everyone. All the guests we've had on the channel, they will be there for you to join and follow as well. You can get involved in abuse some people. It's always nice and fun to do as well. All right. Thanks for joining us, Brett. Hopefully, another thing, we've got the Super Rugby preview coming up week by week. Will you still be keen to join us for those?
Yeah, 100%. I'm looking forward to topping the Subaru poll, the Subaru group this year. So I'll be right at the top. Probably not if Caleb 42 ends playing, but hopefully I'm in the top like 5 or whatever last night. So because there's only 5 people. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, anytime I'm keen to come talk some rugby and run my mouth like I've done for the last couple of minutes. Yeah, probably more than a couple of minutes, probably like an hour.
You should know by now nothing on my channel is a couple of minutes. God. It's almost
seems
an
like
hour.
a couple of minutes.
You mentioned a good point, though. Subaru League, there'll be a video, probably should have come out before this. If you want to join, go check that out. You can look it up. Cornflakes Crib is the name of the leagues. We're doing the picks. We're doing the fantasy teams as well. So get involved in those. You can beat us all. I'm trying to make the Cannon join, but he's being a little bit of a pussy and he doesn't want to join.
After the dreadful season last year.
Well, he kicked his ass last year. Now he doesn't want to join this year. So he get called out again. Twice in a row. Goodness
Please
me.
respond.
The beef is on. Definitely, beef is on. Right, that's us. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you all next time. Until then, take care.